history and things that happened in history, and we want to talk about it instead of just one spot, kind of closer to where that history happened. So we were lucky to be able to combine with Save the Graves to make this even more history to share with you today. I see some more people are going to come in out of the cold. They're looking around. They're trying to find a door that's open. What's going on here? But so I want to thank first of all the gracious host, the Mohana family. This is the Mohana family ranch right here. They got. We were talking about this, they said, well, Jill, you're part of the Hangtown Model A's. Maybe you could get some Model T's, maybe A's and T's. I'm like, okay, so we got about 5 from the Hangtown Model A's. We have some from the Mother Mose Model T Club. And then I had a gentleman, Jim Mattis, I believe, and he contacted me. Where is he?
Right here.
There. Yeah, good to see you. We want to talk on the phone. And he said, well, I'd like to get some of our vintage Chevys over there too. So thanks to a beautiful turnout of that. Thank you for anybody who brought them all. Now this is a presentation that has been honed over the years. Don Uelman, I've been lucky enough to work with him on a number of projects with the Dorado County Historical Society. I think the first project we got it doing together was, he plays good guitar. And I'm kind of a win-win player. And so that you can go down on Main Street. And I go, oh, okay, never done that before. But we started a duo, and that kind of went into walking history of Main Street, Placerville. So I did that with Don for many years. We had fun. And then he tells me that he's got a bad back and he can't walk anymore, and I got to do it. So it's not as fun anymore. But that's, he's also been involved with the Historical Society for at least 20 years. His love of the Sleeping Highway War probably stems from the fact that he's a retired patrolman for 27 years. He knows the roads, and he knows the troubles that his vehicle would face going over the summit and through the mountains. So this is a special topic to him, and I'm really excited to let him be able to coordinate and share it with you folks today. You're in for a treat. Let's see, have I forgotten anybody? Let's see. Well, we're getting the mic, yes. The other president of the Save the Graves, who has also helped coordinate to put this thing together, which we really love, is Mike Roberts. And I'm going to turn it over to Mike Roberts.
All right, thanks for that. Hold your applause. You're in for a treat. Don's got a great presentation for you. I'm going to be following with a little, we call it pavement pounding, down on the road itself, for those of you that are so inclined. There's also an old wagon road that's got an interesting history that we can get onto right where we're going to go after this. So the after party starts after the Model A's have all gotten out ahead of us. They'll be parked along the way. And we will park, actually there's a map for anybody that's going to be going. Get one of these from me. And it's basically when you go down the driveway, it's about 0.2 of a mile to the left for the pullout, and if half of y'all go, we'll block it, or we'll block the road briefly. It's okay. We're not going to be there very long, so we're going to talk about the road, the wagon road, and then for you really hardcore history people, we are then going to, you can optionally then go to the Clarksville Cemetery, which I've arranged to have open, and I know a little bit about it, so we'll head over that way, and the map to that is on here. So for now, we got a couple of housekeeping things. One is we have more people than chairs right now, so if you've got a chair vacant around you, please jump up and down and do jumping jacks so that we can see where people can get a seat. All right, a couple over there, a couple here. Okay.
If anyone wants to move over here.
Thank you to the Mohana family. Getting to know Mo and Josh has been a pleasure. They're worse history geeks than I am. It's amazing. People that really care about the history of this place and are willing to give this to us. So again, thanks to them.
I wouldn't do it because then they can't. There's more people who won't be able to see it over there. So sorry. Yeah. Sorry, Mike.
There was also some of you guys that are hangers-on from an early active transportation meeting. They're advocating that this stretch of road become a continuation of long-discussed bike routes. And one of the cool things about history is the little connections. I love making the little esoteric connections. So the Lincoln Highway starts out in the 1870s. Don will probably talk about this more knowledgeably, but it starts out, the idea starts out in the 1870s from a bunch of bicyclists. The Good Roads movement. They just wanted better bike roads, right? Way back then. And it evolves into this whole thing that becomes this the first coast-to-coast road. And now we've got an active transportation meeting happening trying to, again, perpetuate good bike routes. So, you guys don't think that's cool?
Way
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else I'm forgetting to say? Remember, don't fail before the Model A's, please. No matter how boring we get, don't fail before the Model A's. That's it.
Mike, there's one more thing.
One more thing.
Forgive me if you already said it, I didn't hear it. You did. For folks that don't want to stick around for the Lincoln Highway portion where we walk the road, park, and get out, and Mike does a presentation, you're going to turn right at the driveway and go out the way you came. Otherwise, you're going to be trapped until this presentation is over by cars parked on the narrow road. So if you don't want to stay for that portion, please go down the drive and turn to the right. If you do want to attend, like he said, just wait for the Model Ts and the antique Chevys, and then feel free to follow. All right, Don, it's all yours.
Hey, can everybody hear me? Yeah. I took the middle.
Okay, you can turn on.
All right, first I want to make sure everybody has a handout. If you don't have a handout, we've got them here. The thing with the handout is about halfway through the presentation, we're actually going to take the Lincoln Highway from Sacramento County line all the way up to Lake Tahoe. And so this is really good to follow because after you see some of the pictures, you're going to say, hey, I want to go see that. And this will tell you where to go see it. Okay. Ready? All right, Carl Fisher is the father of the Lincoln Highway. Now let's clarify what the Lincoln Highway is. It was not constructed. It was a series of already built roads. Carl Fisher wanted to promote driving your automobile, which you got to remember at the time, early 1900s, automobiles were new. People were used to going short distances because they had to travel by horseback or by buggy. So anyway, the automobile was a big new thing, and he wanted to promote people to buy more because he made the lights that fit on the front of them. And so he had a big dinner with a number of people. There was the guy that owned the Goodyear rubber manufacturer. Of course, he made tires, and the more cars it bought, the more tires he could sell. There were a number of automobile manufacturers that attended, and he proposed that you go ahead and lay out a route from New York to San Francisco and to have it all established by the opening of the Pan Pacific Exposition in San Francisco on September 1st, I believe it was 1915, there, May 1st, 1915. So anyway, as they sat around at dinner, there was only one person absent, and his name was Henry Ford. And Henry Ford said, you know, if you private industry start messing with the roads, the government will never get involved. And the government's the one that ought to be building the roads. So anyway, he refused to join and pushed for the government getting involved, which they did. So the meeting was basically about 1913, And in 1926, you'll see when we get to it, the government started getting involved in the highways. Okay, so it was the first designated route, and it was mapped out in 1913, and it consisted of 3,300 miles of existing roads. It started in Central Park, New York, and it ended in Lincoln Park, San Francisco. This is it here, and I wanted to show a couple things on here. When the word got out that they were going to build this thing, every city in the United States wanted to have it come through their town. So one of the big stinks was made by Denver. So you can see right about here, they did a loop off so that Denver would be included in the Lincoln Highway. As they came out, they did fine until they got to Carson City. Now, there is two ways to get over the Sierras. One is what is today currently 80, and the other one is 50, which used to be called Placerville Tahoe Road. So what they did was they said, because you don't know whether or not it's going to be open or not, we're going to go ahead and make two pathways over. So they went ahead and did a pathway through Auburn and one through Placerville. They met at the M Street Bridge, which is now the Tower Bridge. The Tower Bridge was not built at that time. It was built in the 1940s, I think. And then to San Francisco, and of course, you had to have an area down here so that you didn't have to take the ferry up here to get to San Francisco. What the Lincoln Highway basically did was got all these people to join in, and they furnished gravel for the roadways because they wanted to have at least the roads passable in the summertime. And you'll see on a later shot why gravel was needed. But anyway, they said, we'll furnish the gravel if the cities and counties, whoever have the roadways will lay it out and do it. So that's what they did. Now, there weren't any highway signs. So the only way you knew to get from one place to another was and by the way, Lincoln Highway wasn't the only highway that was set up at that time. There were other highways that were set up, and each one would have a designated color band. And they would take these bands and they'd put them on the utility poles. So in the east, where you had a lot of highways, it looked like a barber pole, you know, with all the colors on the thing. But the Lincoln Highway had the red, white, and blue band, and that was it. As long as you watched that and you saw those on the poles, you knew you were on the Lincoln Highway. In 1925, the government finally got involved. A group called the American Association of State Highway Officials, or ASHO, and be very careful when you pronounce it. Anyway, they established the routes that we still have today. All the west, east, and west routes, the highways are multiples of 10, and start 10 in the south to 90 in the north. And the north and south routes are 1 or 5, so 101 out here, but that's the way they set it up. Okay, the Lincoln Highway ceased activities about the end of 1927 with ASHO starting up, and anyway, they decided that they had this money left over, so what are we going to do? They said, let's make posts, signposts, and we were going to set these up about every mile on Lincoln Highway. He had about 3,000 of them now. He had 3,030 miles, so some places they were a little bit longer. Anyway, the concrete posts were about 7 foot tall. They had the emblem of Lincoln up on it, and they also had the red, white, and blue on it. And it also had, on the lower portion, either an arrow looking straight ahead or one that showed that you turned at the next intersection. So it was pretty good guidepost all the way out. The only thing is they had to put them up. So on Labor Day weekend in 1928, the Boy Scouts of America installed a marker about every mile of the Lincoln Highway, all the way out. You can see them here, and here's the post there. And but amazing, isn't it? Labor Day weekend, they put posts up almost every mile. Okay. Again, I talked about the 2 Lincoln highways entering the county, and now, get your handout. If you have questions about something on the handout, make a little check mark next to your handout, and we'll answer the questions at the end of the session. And that way we won't be bogged down, because I really have a problem when I start talking about some of these things and I go way off. You know, so it helps me stay. Okay, we're going to travel from the east section, East County line to the West County line, and we're going to start out at my favorite place, which is In-N-Out. Okay? Now, the backside of In-N-Out, where the drive-through is, you know, there's a roadway there. And that roadway is the old Placerville Road. And that's what you start on if you want to travel on the Lincoln Highway. Take the Placerville Road to White Rock Road, and then you come across the Trove, and we'll take you to what is called the Carson Street Bridge, which is the entrance to Clarksville. So take a look at that. Now, if you're looking for these Lincoln Highway signs, you won't find them. They only last about a month, because everybody wants to have, oops, sorry, thank you. Everybody wants to have a souvenir of the Lincoln Highway. And I noticed that, and any of you when you drive in, did you notice that it's painted now on the pavement instead of the sign? So now they're going to have to tear up the pavement if they want a souvenir. And that's also what happened to the Lincoln Highway markers. They were all taken, or they got tossed to the side of the road when they redid the highway. Anyway, this is the Carson Creek Bridge, which is down here. This is what it looked like when they built it in 1918. And this is what it looks like today. But you can see it as you're coming in. Clarksville. This is Clarksville then, this is Clarksville today. Now again, this is private property and it's gated community. So like Mike says, you know, we need to get, well, the gate open on the top of the thing. But anyway, all right. And here we go. This is where the Carson Creek Bridge is. You see that? Okay. Now, of course, the Lincoln Highway ends at the pavement here, where the embankment is. So you have to go around and come up this way. And here is where we are right now. So you kind of get an idea of where we are. As you come on out, where the road has a sharp turn, that's where the Lincoln Highway actually went across to this area here, and then came back in and joined again on Country Club. Country Club Lane is actually the route that the old Lincoln Highway went on. This is another shot of the longest stretch. That's the one we've got out here, and Mike will be talking more about that when you guys get down there. Okay. All right. Now, when you come up to Cameron Park Drive, which is here, just before Cameron Park Drive, it actually came across the freeway, and you can see the old section of the road behind Safeway, because it came through and then it ended up coming on the Duroc Road, and then follows Duroc Road up to Motherlode Drive. Okay. All right, Motherlode Drive, this is the Lincoln Highway coming through Shingle Springs, This is the old plantation house. Used to be a big rest stop all the time, a big hotel and that. You'll see the highway here, okay? And then this is the other end of Shingle Springs. Now up here is the train station that's still there. And then as you come off the train station, this area here is now filled so that it's a raised grade coming down to where Buckeye Road is. And actually, when I moved up here in 1980, I remember I lived down off of Holiday Lake area, and I remember seeing these guardrails were still in existence there at Buckeye Road taken off. Okay. All right, so if you just follow Buckeye Road, you're on the old Lincoln Highway, and then it comes back across. Now remember, when they built this highway, or the highways then, they didn't have all the grading equipment that we have today. So you built your highway the way the contour or the geography went, which wasn't a bad thing, because when you're driving one of those, you didn't drive much more than about 30 miles an hour. So that worked fine for all the curves and that. All right, then anyway, an interesting part here is, I'm trying to remember what this right here is the senior mobile park on Frenchtown Road. And what happened was, is as you came down, this area here is all fill now and goes straight from Otherlode, but this went down and this went into the McKinney property here, and then went along, because this was all swamp area, and hit Frenchtown Road, and then came up Frenchtown Road, and then it went up, and again it curved around the head. There's a big canyon right here, curved around the head of the canyon. The American Legion Hall sits right off here, just to kind of give you a thing. And then you went back down and on up to Pleasant Valley Road. This is a McKinney property that has, a lot of people see these C markers and they say, whoa, that's a Lincoln Highway marker. It's not. It's a marker that was put in by the state, and what it did was it was a indication of where to set up your instruments for when you were, especially in a grade or a curve. So anyway, that was the points before they had GPS. And then here's another shot. This is in the senior trailer park there, and it actually runs through, and there's a culvert there, but that was part of the Lincoln Highway that you can still see today. And it's right off of Frenchtown Road. So anyway.
Which side?
Pardon?
Which side of Frenchtown Road?
It's on the east side of Frenchtown Road. And you'll see another, by the way, in that trailer park, if you're on Frenchtown Road, as you get to the end of the park, on the other side of the road, on the west side, you're going to see a C marker in a bunch of bushes. That's there. It's still there. So anyway. And then you get on Pleasant Valley Road, and you go on through El Dorado, and then you get to Forney Road. Now, Forney Road is one of my favorite stretches along with this, because Forney Road actually follows the route of the Lincoln Highway. It's very curvy, and then in right here is the old bridge that's there. So anyway, this is another idea of how the older cars could traverse it. Today we have a number of people that can't control on it. But anyway, that was my former life. I took care of that. I love being a highway patrolman, you know. A lot of people used to say, how in the world can you go out and do that? But you know, every one of you have driven down the road and seen some idiot. I always liked the bumper sticker that I saw one time. It said, I'm a veterinarian and I drive like an animal, and until that time I didn't realize how many proctologists are driving. But anyway, it was great working in the occupation, but the customers always wrong. Anyway, Weber Creek Bridge. Again, that's part of the Lincoln Highway. And then this, of course, ends up, and it's really neat. You know, when you start down in Sacramento at In-N-Out, and you end up coming up Placerville Drive, and there's another In-N-Out. Yeah, fantastic the way they set those up. Okay, at the El Dorado County Museum, as you're walking through the gate, you'll see a Lincoln Highway marker on each side of the entrance. And there's also a large plaque that's there that describes the story of the Lincoln Highway and that. So whenever it reopens, be sure to stop and see it's closed right now. But anyway, remember as you walk in the entrance, just to stop for a minute and take a look at that. All right, one other thing that before we get to this one, is there is a bridge that is on Placerville Drive just past the Home Depot. And it's on the right side as you're coming up. And if you look down behind the little apartment buildings, you can actually see it from the road. There's a bridge down there. No road coming into it, no road coming out of it. But I think that that is probably part of the old Lincoln Highway. Because if you look at that, and then if you look across the street behind where the Polaris motorcycle stuff is, you'll actually see a road going up the hill and then go across. And I think that was all part of Lincoln Highway. You got to remember that when they graded it for the first grade that they did, that Highway 50 is on, was the railroad from Camino. And then they took that right away, and that's what they paved and made the freeway, the Highway 50 up through there. But anyway, Lincoln Highway then came down, and then it would join into Main Street, and you go up Main Street, and if you go to the, it used to be Tortilla Flats, now I think it's called the So, yeah, anyway, the guy that was redoing that back in, what year did I say, 1980, they were digging out and he came across a broken hunk of the Lincoln Highway thing. So he went ahead and saved it and put it in the wall, and it's right there. Probably all of you have walked by it a number of times and never realized what was there, but anyway, so next time you go by, stop because it's very visible once you know what you're looking for in that wall there. Okay, now on your handout, it talks about going up Main Street to Point View Drive, but actually there's a better way if you want to stay with the Lincoln Highway. Go over to Carson Road on the overpass off of Broadway, right by McDonald's. You know, there's an overpass there. If you go over that, you pick up Carson Road, and then you're on the Lincoln Highway again. And you just want to stay with that all the way up to when you get to Pony Express, and then Pony Express becomes the Lincoln Highway as you go through, and take it all the way through Pollock Pines. Okay. Now this, I wanted to put this in here because you guys wonder why they needed to buy gravel for the roads. That's why they needed to buy gravel for the roads. That's coming out of Placerville, climbing the grade in one of those. And it was rough, especially in the winter time. Okay, so here we are in Pony Express, and we're going on up, and there we get to Lincoln to Pollock Pines, and the road actually goes on, but then it becomes a private road. And this area here is called Bullion Bend. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the William Ben robbery, but Jill has a really good talk about that. Very famous, really neat, and again, don't get me started because then I go way off track. All right. This is a shot of actually the William Ben area, and you can see how the car and the wagons are still using the road there. All right, now we come down out of there and we get to the Riverton Bridge. Now this is the Riverton Bridge that was in existence at the time of the Lincoln Highway. This is the old wagon road bridge behind it. This shot is looking from from west to east. This is Peavine Ridge. The old 50 used to actually run along that, or the old wagon road. And then they moved it down to this area here. Okay. Now, if you looked at that last one, you noticed on the four corners of the bridge there were these obelisks. And it was very, very interesting time. I had Lincoln Highway Association come up about 2007 or so, and we were talking about that, and they says, oh yeah, the one obelisk is missing. And I says, no, it's not. He says, what do you mean? And I says, well, I'll show you where it's at. So we went on Placerville Drive to a construction area. Oh, it's gone. Oh yeah, there it is, right. Yeah. So anyway, if you're on Placerville Drive, you're gonna look off to the side and you'll see it sitting there. Yeah. Okay. Again, there's the obelisks, you see them, and then this is the road up to the lakes there. Again, if you're at the thing, you can see the remains of the old bridge right here. The foundation is there. You walk around up there. It's a neat place to walk around and look at it. Okay. All right, now on the sheet that you have, there's references to milepost markers and references to mile markers. This is the difference. A milepost marker is actually a paddle marker, and up here, this is Highway 1, because that's the only one I could find on the internet. But anyway, it would say Highway 50, and then the county would say El Dorado, BED, and then here is the number down here. And that number signifies the mileage from where the road began, from south to north and from east to west. So when you're looking at Highway 50 markers, the paddle markers, it starts at the junction of Highway 99 and in Sacramento, that's B1, and then come on up. These, and again, they've all been, most of them been stolen, are mile markers. And these were made in the 1870s or so to mark the distance away from the courthouse to the county line, from the Placerville County Courthouse. And then each of the tracks that you see correspond to the mile markers, all right? And they set these up because the wagon trains and the freight trains that were coming through Placerville and that, if they broke down somewhere, they would be able to refer to where they were broke down on the trail by the milepost marker. So that's what they were put for. And again, they were made out of granite, and they were made at Folsom Prison. All right, so now you come across the Riverton Bridge, and now the roadway, of course, is up higher, but most of it went right down along the river. And the spots that I've indicated on there, where you can drive off down, you can actually go down to the places that are still in existence along the river. Okay. the spots on there is a place called Split Rock. And you'll see that, and you'll see another half of the Split Rock. And that, but one thing along that spot, go ahead to the next one, I think it's, there's what they call a ghost sign there. And it's a painted advertisement for an organ and accordion place in Oakland. And this is where I get off a little bit. Accordion is misspelled. Now, when I was growing up, I was one of 8 children, but my parents insisted that each one of us have the opportunity to play a musical instrument. So I took the trumpet because that got me into the band in high school and all the football games for free and the basketball games. My brother, my younger brother, took up accordion, and he still plays the accordion. He loves the accordion. Any place he goes, he if he's driving, he puts his accordion in the back seat of the car, and you know, in case somebody asks him to play. Now, his job is actually, he was the dean of Santa Clara Law School for a number of years, and he was also, when he finished that, he was one of O.J. Simpson's dream team, and he was the one that came up with the, if it doesn't fit, you must have quit. So John gives him credit for that in his book. But anyway, but he really loves his accordion. So like I say, he was, a couple months ago, he was in San Francisco at a meeting, and he walks back to his car and he sees the rear back window broken out. And he looked in the back seat, and there were 2 accordions in the back seat. Anyway, this is another shot of Split Rock. You can see why they call it that. And this is one of my favorite places. This is the Forney Creek Culvert. And it's very difficult to see from the road. So remember that milepost, and don't try to turn left into it if you can avoid it. It's best to turn right. And you're coming down and you actually are making a curve. You see the milepost marker, get ready, and then turn right. And you come in and you go across, and it's just such a great example of all the hard work and construction they did when they were building that highway. And that, of course, is part of the Lincoln Highway.
Is that near 39 milestone?
No, it's, I don't know, but it's the milepost marker is 50 something. So just, you know, it's on your thing there. So be sure to watch it. Again, some of the places you'll see as you go off, there are still some of the old retaining walls built along there. All right, now get up to Strawberry. This is one of the most interesting aspects of the whole thing up there. And this is the old Swan Toll Road. And you've got to get off at Strawberry and go back a ways, and there's a big campground there. And it's in the campground. And there's a sign here that talks about it. But that area, all the way up to Slippery Ford, was the Lincoln Highway until 1931. 1931 is when they finally built the road on the north side of the thing. So anyway, here's a kind of an indication. This is where that poster is, or the signpost. And then you have this area here, which is a really great walking trail. And then you have Slippery Ford. But I recommend that if you want to do this trail, instead of hiking uphill, you go all the way up here. This area here is what's called Twin Bridges now, and it has the 2 bridges side by side. And then you start up the grade, which the Highway Patrol calls hamburger, or hamburger. No, not hamburger. The meat. The meat grinder, that's it. You call it the meat grinder because of all the head-on collisions we used to have on that. Anyway, as you get up to the top and you're just making a curve at the top, it describes it in there what the milepost marker is. There's a right turn, and you can come down here to Slippery Ford. And that is really a neat spot. You can go ahead and hit. Okay, this is the top of the road up there. And this is what it looks like. It looked like then. Looks like almost the same. And this is Slippery Ford. Now Slippery Ford was used, they had the old twin bridges that was up farther, but they would get washed out. And the cars would actually traverse this water here. It's a very, probably 2 inches deep, 3 inches deep, and it just spreads out and flows across here. It's called Slippery Ford because John Fremont actually used that trail when he came out, and as he was crossing, he slipped and fell. And there's a story about how one of his guns fell out of his holster and somebody saved it. But anyway, it was nice of the guys, instead of saying John Fremont fell on his butt Ford, and renamed it Slippery Ford. So, but again, if you ever have a chance to do that, it's really an interesting spot. It's a really beautiful spot. All right, after you leave there, you come up to the Johnson Cutoff, and the regular road goes the Echo Summit and the side. Johnson Cutoff basically avoids the big overhang area, and it comes back down right before the old Myers grade. And as you come out, you'll notice it's a pull out here, and there's a fenced area, but it's still maintained because once in a while they have a rock slide somewhere up here, and they use the old Myers grade and move traffic up. And then from there, you go to Pioneer Trail. And Pioneer Trail, oh, that's another shot of the vehicles coming over the Johnson Trail. All right, Pioneer Trail, if you go down that as you're approaching, the Pioneer Trail is the old Lincoln Highway. As you're approaching the signals where the big ski lift is and that, just before you get there, there is a street called Trout Creek. If you turn on Trout Creek, turn left off of the trail, you look down, and here is actually this beautiful old bridge, and it's just almost buried. But that was the Highway Company Bridge as you go across Trout Creek. So anyway. Okay, now, in July 7th, 2009, our museum was the host to a military reenactment of Eisenhower's military convoy. Eisenhower took a convoy, military 81 vehicles, took him 26 days to get from New York to San Francisco. And the amazing thing was that after World War II, he went into Germany and he saw the Autobahns there. And he said, that's how you move troops across country, not on the Lincoln Highway. So anyway, when he came back in the 1950s, Congress passed the Interstate Highway. And it wasn't called the Interstate Highway Bill at the time, it was called the Defense Highway Bill. Because his idea was that if you wanted to move troops quickly from the East Coast to the West Coast, you really needed some good highways. So the purpose of the interstate system was actually as a military road. Okay. All right, so just kind of concluding, road construction has very rarely changed since Roman times till our modern day when we built our freeways. The amazing thing was that cars used to be called touring cars. There was a Hudson, my dad had one, it was a terraplane, which means land plane. And we used to go for rides on Sunday. You know, that was a pleasurable thing to do, was just to get out and ride around on Sunday. And you know, I tell my kids and my grandkids that, and they look at me like I'm nuts. Why would you, you know, cars are made to get from one place to another. They're not made for pleasure, but they are. And we had that time. That was great. In fact, the terraplane didn't have a radio. And there was, like I say, 8 of us kids, and you can imagine what we looked like squeezed into the terraplane. And we would go to my grandma's house, and my dad taught us all how to sing, because he realized that if the kids are singing, they aren't fighting. So that was really neat, and we did learn how to sing after that. Okay, this is a last marker of the Lincoln Highway. It is still in Lincoln Park. The area that it's in is where the golf course is now. And if you drive out to the very end where the big art museum is, a memorial building or whatever it's called.
Legion of Honor.
Yeah, if you park in the parking lot and walk the street back, or the sidewalk that goes back to the golf course, you'll come across the marker there. That's it.
Thank you, Don.
You gotta hang on to that thing, man. Take you anyways.
I have a comment.
Yes.
You mentioned the Eisenhower's trip across the country. I wanted to point out that anybody who's interested in that, and it's very interesting, there's a book on the subject, American Road. The subtitle is The Story of an Epic Transcontinental Journey at the Dawn of the Motor Age, by the author Pete Davies, D-A-V-I-E-S, which covers First Lieutenant Eisenhower going across the country with military trucks and other vehicles. And it has a lot of pictures. That was in 1919. From the White House to San Francisco, 3,250 miles, and in 1919, the roads were so bad that traveling continuously, it took them 62 days. So I think anybody who was interested in early roads and this trip, which I think led to the Eisenhower pushing the interstate, would find this book very interesting. So it's American Road by Pete Davies.
Thank you.
Museum.
Yes.
Wait, get on mic, go ahead and talk, and then if there's any other questions, I'll answer them if you have them.
Okay, a little quick housekeeping. I don't have enough of these maps for the rest of the event, so I've got about 8 left. I'm asking you guys to share and take pictures of each other's maps, and one per car and that kind of thing. Other than that,
Is there any questions?
And real fast before we get to questions, because Mike and I are going to go ahead and prepare for everyone. Now is the time for, without everyone getting up, for anyone with an antique automobile to follow Mike and I down the Lincoln Highway by turning left and getting situated or preparing for everyone else who's interested in joining us. After you finish your Q&A session with Don, you'll get in your cars. Those who want to join us will turn left and just find space to pull over behind the next car along the road, even partially in the road. That's how we're going to do this. So, like Mike said, we're going to have the maps here. If you can take pictures of them, because there's only so much left, and you'll see the purple square where we'll be needing for Mike's presentation. So just the antique car folks getting up, and you can take pictures of the map afterwards.